Greetings. Get rid of him. Wait. Why are you leaving this on? Wait, come back. What's up, guys? I love Pencil here, and here we are to try and delete Gojo from the narrative now. Like in 236 or 237 or relatively quickly. So I made a video recently talking about whether or not Gojo Satoru, the strongest sorcerer, needs to be removed from the plot of Jujutsu Kaisen. And of course, naturally, the very next day I ended up asking y'all, hey, do you guys actually think he needs to be removed from the narrative? Obviously, I saw the comment section, but there's nothing like a little bit of democracy. So I went up and put up a poll on the channel. And when looking at that, it seems like a decent chunk, I admittedly have a pretty beefy sample size, out of 1.6k votes, people believe that Gojo Satoru has to lose for plot. So obviously that means I gotta get rid of him. Because I saw the comments on that post. And the people who are voting for Gojo to got the 48% of y'all don't want Gojo to lose. Y'all want Gojo to get got. So what's up, guys? Satoru Hunter here. Fun fact, I have it on me. And I keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, Gojo's really hard to get rid of right now, using things that are currently established within the narrative due to the context of this stupidly overpowered character. Now, you may be wondering what I mean. But a big question that I wonder, and admittedly I haven't been able to go through all the comments yet to see if anyone's proposed something outside of like minor examples that have existed for a while now. The biggest issue that exists with getting rid of Gojo in the narrative right now is that he's A, too strong, and B, the things that allowed his too strongness to be negated have already been used up, erased, or maybe a piece of them are left and it's being slightly hinted at. What do I mean? So there are, I'd say, 3 items in the entire series. 3 separate choose your starter type B items that existed within the world of the Jujutsu Kaisen that would allow Gojo Satoru, a being as powerful as him, to be limited, locked down, shut up. Hey, maybe, dare I say, removed from the narrative. Admittedly, only one of these managed to succeed under very specific circumstances that likely cannot be replicated, but even with that being the case, there are 3. The first one that we see used against Gojo chronologically, or in release order of the series, would be the Black Robe. It neutralizes and messes with Gojo's technique. Is it that effective against Gojo? No, it isn't. You know, Miguel tried his best. He lasted for a very long time. Respect to Miguel. He actually managed to survive against Gojo. Though, once again, I chalk that up to wibbly wobbly plot stuff and Gojo wanting Yuta to become stronger and stuff like that. So I don't fully give Miguel credit for surviving against Gojo for as long as he did, but at the same time, it's still very, very impressive. But unfortunately, the Black Robe does not exist anymore. Like, literally, in the discussion with Tengen, Yuta reveals that, oh yeah, me and Miguel, we went back to Africa to, you know, take a peek, take a look, in Notebook, reading Rainbow type beat. And yeah, there's no more Black Robe. He destroyed all of that in the Night Parade of 100 demons. 1,000 demons. 1,000 or 100? 1,000. Is that 1,000? Night Parade of how many demons? Sorry, this is going to bother me. I'm going to look at... It is 100. Why is it only 100? Hold on. Maybe not. Night Parade of... It is a Night Parade of 100 demons. But didn't he have like 1,000? Over 1,000? Whatever. Essentially, in the Night Parade of 100 demons, Gojo went out of his way to destroy all the Black Robe. Likely because he got flashbacks of the second thing that actually managed to be affected on him, which was the inverted Spear of Heaven. Now, this one's going to be a little bit fancy. We're going to talk about that one in a little bit. But, once again, the thing with the inverted Spear of Heaven is that it worked really, really well against Teen Gojo. A super duper Omega Dagger defeated and tired and out of his league Teen Gojo that got ran up on by the Sorcerer Slayer himself, the Fate Breaker Toji Fushiguro, who caught Gojo lacking with a weapon he had never seen before. Yeah, that thing also got sealed and or destroyed after Gojo ran into that. He obviously did not want that happening again, and thusly he erased the thing from the series. So, the Inverted Spear of Heaven, or at least the one that we saw, cooked. Once again, we'll talk about that in more length in a bit, because it's one of the few ways I could try and get rid of Gojo. The final thing that managed to put Gojo on hold, put him on pause, but did not actually manage to get rid of him, was, well, it's a little box-shaped item. Yeah, the Prison Realm. Now, Is it entirely possible that the prison realm still exists? Maybe. 221 is very, very vague on what happens. We just know the prison realm was stored at the bottom of the ocean, and the back of the prison realm was kept with our cast. But after Gojo was released by Jacob's Ladder, the prison realm back, and obviously maybe the cursed spirit Kenjaku had the prison realm front and retrieved it, maybe. But even then, it seems doubtful. And if it did, I highly doubt Gojo left it there, leaving the offhand chance that he could be sealed again. If he was that paranoid about the Black Rope and that paranoid about the Inverted Spear of Heaven, he's likely that paranoid about the prison realm and destroyed it if it even exists anymore. It's more likely to me that Hana straight up wiped it out of existence. So, the three major things that could hamper Satoru Gojo are gone. One way or another, whether it be through erasure via technique, whether it be through destruction by Gojo literally pummeling it out of existence in the case of the Black Rope, and or Gojo presumably maybe sealing it, or just flat out destroying it in the case of the Inverted Spear of Heaven. So, what does that leave us? Obviously, the biggest, rawest, juiciest answer was Sukuna before chapters 223 to 235. Yet, so Sukuna ain't working. He really ain't working all too well. But the subsection of Sukuna that I want to talk about first before we go to Sukuna itself, because dare I say, I'm considering something. Maybe Sukuna cooking, maybe Sukuna's in the kitchen. We're still with it. But for getting Gojo up out of here, Mahoraga is one of the other built-in elements that was meant to get Sukuna away, to get Gojo up out of here and save the plot. But I don't know, if you happen to read chapter 235, I think you know what happened to Mahoraga when he tried it. Now, admittedly, before 235, if you were to ask me to make this video at 234, I literally would have said Mahoraga is the way you get rid of Gojo. Because Mahoraga seemed to be cooking. We're still whipping up in the kitchen. But, unfortunately, Mahoraga, like every other thing that could hypothetically stop Gojo, kind of just bang! Literally by a hollow purple. Bro got hard deleted from existence. And notably, I think he's like deleted too. It's questionable, but in 235, you literally don't just see Mahoraga get vaporized. In fact, you don't get to see Mahoraga English. You do not get to see Mahoraga vaporized at all. Like, literally at all. You literally see just the wheel after the body of Mahoraga got vaporized, and then the wheel itself. Something that a lot of the fandom, admittedly, after a lot of convincing, myself included, thought was indestructible. Even the wheel itself got annihilated. So it may be entirely possible that Mahoraga can't even be totality'd. So, the wheel, the adaptations that came with the wheel, gone. Meaning that another massive key to getting rid of Satoru Gojo is erased from the narrative. Like that. Like literally, just like that, in a snap, in a flash. And that's rough. That's rough, because what else in the narrative is established? Oh wait, domain expansions. So we saw what happened when someone of extreme power tried to use a domain expansion on Satoru Gojo to get rid of him. It did not, in fact, get rid of him. So, obviously, Malevolent Shrine is something that is technically off the table. Who knows? We don't exactly know if Sukuna can read the process on his own brain damage, or if he can't, if it's been healing, or if it is healed or anything like that. But we've seen Gojo already tank a Malevolent Shrine. And he tanked a Malevolent Shrine without 4 black flashes worth of amps. I don't think it's all too illogical to assume that a Gojo who's had his RCT restored by the good old juice that is those black flashes, I think it's entirely reasonable for him to be perfectly fine in another Malevolent Shrine get down. And unfortunately, Malevolent Shrine is the strongest domain that we currently know that exists within the side of the bad guys. No matter how powerful, no matter how juicy the backshot beast known as Kenjaku is, his domain is levels lower than Sukuna in terms of raw power. And thusly, if Gojo's able to melee rock on any block and face tank and scrumdiddlyumptious all over a Malevolent Shrine, there's absolutely nothing Kenjaku can hope to do with his. And that's the only way to shut down the Infinity, which is admittedly the hardest thing to get Gojo up out of here for. Because realistically, There are two levels. The biggest reason I'm finding it so difficult to find a way to get rid of Gojo is because there's two levels you have to get through to get rid of Gojo. Level number 1, you need to get past the neutral limitless. Nothing can get past the neutral limitless that exists right now. Once again, maybe Sukuna domain and maybe Kenny domain, but the thing is, that's where you run into the second problem, where Gojo himself is just so beefy, so juicy, so scrumdiddlyumptiously thick with 7 C's, not even 5, not even, I put up 4 figures when I said 5, but literally, Gojo's so thick, juicy, and tanky that bro is hard to get rid of even without the neutral limitless. And he has his RCT restored. And due to the nature of the 6 eyes, them 6 little things he's got, he has burned probably 1%, maybe 2%, maybe 3%. Let's be generous and say he burned half his cursed energy. He burned half his cursed energy after how many domains? After how many reds? How many blues? A purple times 2? Like bro's been slopping down. I gotta change my phrasing. Do I? Probably. But he's been throwing out cursed energy left and right, and he, after seemingly starting to heal pretty quickly at the end of 235, he seems no worse for wear in terms of raw cursed energy numbers. So with the 6 eyes, he's juiced up to max right now. Am I saying that Gojo is as powerful or as strong as his start of fight self? No, because I don't think he has access to domain yet. But I am saying he does not need domain to survive anything that is currently established within the series, if they can even get past the neutral limitless. And the thing is, they can't. Once again, let's go with the obvious thing, right? The Sukuna fans out there have probably been saying this at the start of the video. Sukuna has domain amplification. That has not worked. It has not. It simply hasn't worked. I'm sorry. Obviously, I 100% believe that Sukuna, despite looking, it's burning, despite looking like that at the end of 235, I 100% believe that Sukuna is going to, and he's going to restore himself. But we've seen domain amplification be used throughout this entire fight. It has not done Sukuna any favors at all. Like, it's worked. He's managed to land hits, but every time he even gets a domain amplification hit, it doesn't do any damage. It literally, like, unless I'm wrong, admittedly, I've not reread the entire fight yet, but if I had money, I'd put it down on the idea that I don't think a domain amplification hit has actually done any damage to Satoru Gojo. We've seen love taps, we've seen bounces off of Gojo when Sukuna's ba 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 ba, but we haven't seen anything of like legitimate, honest, good damage. Like, Sukuna's taken real good damage from punches, admittedly amped by blue, and reds, and obviously purples. Bro's been taking hits. The only time that Sukuna has done direct damage to Gojo is with Malevolent Shrine, which makes sense, because it's the Pikachu Jutsu, it's literally cleave and dismantle, fueled by 20 Finger Sukuna, which makes sense. And I believe the Piercing Water. That is it. That is all that's actually done real good proper damage to Gojo from Sukuna. Because the neutral infinity is that much of a problem. So, once again, let me break it down for you. To get rid of Satoru Gojo, because this is the biggest thing. A lot of people say he has to go for plot. But the biggest things that you have to do to get rid of Satoru Gojo, you have to introduce something that can bypass the neutral limitless. And then you need to introduce something that will not just bypass the neutral limitless, but be actually strong enough to get rid of Gojo. Either one on its own is a problem that the second strongest character, because I think we can officially call him the second strongest at this point. I'm sorry. I mean, Sukuna fans out there, we can keep huffing Copia. Maybe 20 finger or 21 finger Maguna would have gone crazy. But at least right now, the second strongest character in the entire series. And note, this is not second. This is second strongest, and the gap between 2 and 3 is not this big. It's like that big. Like, it's a massive. Ooh. You stay there. Don't you do this to me. But essentially, the gap between 2 and 3 is so otherworldly massive that I legit think This is how crazy. You can make a solid argument that someone like Five Finger Sukuna or Five Finger Maguna could beat Kenjaku. Well, I think is the strongest. Can I say that? Five Finger? Can I say Five Finger? Okay, I'll be generous. I'll be generous to Kenjaku and literally the rest of the verse. 15 Finger. I think 15 Finger could mollywop the entire rest of the verse on its own. I think if you were to set up 15 Finger Maguna or Itadori Sukuna against the rest of the verse, Sukuna would mollywop them all with his bare hands. Like, he probably doesn't even need to whip out a technique. But even with that being the case, the level of power that Sukuna has access to has clearly shown ineffectiveness against Gojo because of how much raw power Gojo has at his disposal. And if Sukuna can't do anything, then what is supposed to? Because a lot of people are saying, oh, well, Gojo can get cheap shot. He can get faked out. All that stuff. Can he, though? Can he, though? Like, literally, the one thing that worked against Gojo was something that cheated, bypassed his technique, and sealed him and shut off his cursed energy in the prison realm. And that wasn't because he got cheap shot. It was because he literally had trauma flashbacks. And notably, he's well over the trauma flashbacks at this point. A big thing that people have been theorizing is that maybe Kenjaku switches bodies to someone else that Gojo cares about. A lot of people are theorizing Nobara. I'm going to make a Nobara video, so I'll throw my own 2 cents in the ring on that one in a bit. But even still, I don't think you get much more traumatizing than Geto. And also, unless cursed spirit manipulation and all the saved cursed spirits can be transferred, that means Tengen 2, from one vessel to another, if Kenjaku's technique works that way, I don't think that's going to work. I think Kenjaku would definitely want to stay in Geto's body in order to, execute the merger. And thusly, the trauma response that he got out of Gojo is not going to happen again. We literally see it fail to happen again when he first gets freed in 221. So that element is gone. Sukuna doesn't have the raw power to do it. Any of the established techniques of Sukuna that could hypothetically get through the neutral limitless do not have any way to actually get through Gojo itself. So how do you get rid of it? Like this is just how do you get rid of it? I know there's hypothetical stuff. The first big hypothetical thing I want to cover on hypothetically getting Gojo out of the narrative. I keep saying hypothetical, one of my favorite words. But one possibility to remove Gojo from the narrative is that last piece of the inverted spear of heaven. That last little tiny bit. Notably, and let me double check this to make sure I'm not losing my good mind. But if I'm not mistaken, if my eyes do not deceive me, the inverted spear of heaven is very specifically not a spear. Like, notably, I don't have a spear. I do not own a spear. But a spear is supposed to have, is there any way I can show this without being scared? 3 prongs. Yeah. Is this a rare thing? I heard people say this is a rare thing. 3 prongs. But a spear is supposed to have 3 prongs. The inverted spear of heaven has 2 prongs. That's not necessarily a spear. I think it is. It has its own name. But the inverted spear of heaven is missing a piece. That piece is, in fact, not exactly locatable. It's very deliberate, too. You can very specifically tell by how it's drawn in the anime and the manga. Well, actually, no. The anime kind of makes it hard to tell. At least on this one anime. And I get English. There's one anime image I'm seeing. It kind of makes it hard to tell. But in the manga, you can very specifically tell, especially when it gets like full-on panels, the inverted spear of heaven is broken. So the inverted spear of heaven is technically still in play for the fact that the one that Toji had may be destroyed, but that doesn't mean the full thing was destroyed. So obviously a big thing that a lot of people are falling back to is, well, that final piece of the inverted spear of heaven. Gege wouldn't draw that piece missing unless it would be used later. And I agree. But the question is, who's actually going to hit Gojo with it? And how are they going to, presumably, the only way to get rid of Gojo is removing the head. Who is going to, let's just say, remove him healthily without, failing, because the man can regen instantaneously. The thing is, maybe if we had the full spear, if we had like the full length thing, I'd say the full length spear is about, like, just based on how it is in Toji's hands. Toji's a big dude. I'd say the inverted spear is about this big. I'm not exactly sure how long this is, but I'd say it's about this big. And notably, this I'll do it. I'm scared. So I'm going to do it like this. This is enough. You could, like, I'm not sure if you can tell by the angle. You can do something with that. You can do something with that. But the piece that's missing, the piece that is straight up missing is like maybe this big. And I'm not talking about the full pencil length. I'm just talking like this big. That's not removing Gojo's head. And that's the only way that we could hypothetically get rid of him. Because everything else he can heal off. We've literally seen he can heal off everything else. You can remove the man's arms, he will grow it back. You can slice the man all over his body, he will grow it back. You can stab him through the head, the torso, the chest. He at, 16 or 17, he grew it all back. Like, bro had nothing. Like, how do you get rid of him? It literally is a question of how do you do it? How do you do it? Because with that missing piece of the inverted spear in particular, it's too short. It is literally too short. You would have to argue that if you fuse a piece of the inverted spear onto a longer blade, it would work the same. And I don't think it works like that. So the inverted spear, despite being something that is still in play and I think could have use later on in the narrative, ultimately, I don't think it works that well. The next thing that could have been used, the prison realm. Once again, even with Gojo Satoru's enhanced perception of time, I don't think it's that enhanced to the point where he'd fall for it twice. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't be fooled again. Obviously, Gojo's not going to fall for that again. If the prison realm or something of its ilk even exists, he would look at it and be like, oh, nope, we ain't doing that. And he would get on out of there. So that's not going to work. At least I don't think it is. Maybe you could argue that works, but I don't think so. That's the one thing that did just straight up ignore everything and shut Gojo down. Once again, I already mentioned the main implications. Sukuna's not strong enough. Mahoraga's vaporized. I don't know. The next thing we could argue is Yorozu's gift, right? Maybe Yorozu's gift is very specifically built to bypass the neutral limitless. And here's the thing. It could be, but I am like 75% sure it isn't. And he may be like, pencil? That's an odd number. And you're right. It's a very odd number. And the reason I say that is because I'm not sure Samuki knew about the limitless. You know what I'm saying? Like, notably, Megami's the only one who was brought into the fold of the Jujutsu world. Samuki was not. She was very specifically a non-sorcerer through and through who had Yorozu incarnated into her. And while Yorozu has access to Samuki's memories, Samuki, once again, was not involved in the sorcery world. Sure, Gojo goes blabbing about his technique to anybody and everybody, but I don't think he would have gone blabbing about his technique to the one individual that literally has nothing to do with sorcery. He would have no reason to ever tell Samuki his technique. So the likelihood of Yorozu knowing that Sukuna would be fighting someone with the limitless, what seems to be a very recent technique, if anything's to go by, I think it's super duper unlikely. And her just making another inverted spear of heaven in a very similar vein to my making another soul split katana seems very, very unlikely to me. And once again, going back to the issue of the inverted spear, even if Sukuna were to magically pull that out and swing on Gojo, Gojo would likely have a trauma response. He would probably instantaneously fire off another purple. Just out of sheer instinct, he'd be like, ah, and just boom, launch another purple. He would not get close to Sukuna if he had that. And once again, while I do 100% believe this is long enough to decapitate somebody, I don't think Gojo would allow that. He would not allow Sukuna to get close enough, considering Gojo has shown on numerous occasions in this fight he is the faster of the two. So he would likely, if would he like, it would be crazy. Like, say Sukuna goes in and he's like, finally, Satoru, let me show you my ability. And he goes to pull it out, and suddenly, and he's like, where'd it go? And Oda's like, oh, you looking for this? Oh, yeah. I ain't doing this again. And he just immediately goes and swings on Sukuna. I could literally see that happening because of how deeply Gojo's trauma response seems to be built into him. So the inverted spear, if it's Yorozu's gift, is not working. Next, you have the big boy. The next one. The black box technique from Sukuna. This one I'm extra iffy on because I just don't know. Like, I mean, it could be, right? But then you run into the question, why hasn't he used it? If it could work so well, why would he abandon a physically stronger vessel to go for Megami? Right? Like think about it. If the black box technique all this time could have bypassed the neutral infinity, which I don't think it would, because once again the neutral limitless seems to be such our new technique. And I sorry, I feel like I always say this with automatic assumption that people know what I'm talking about. When I say the limitless and the infinity and red and blue and purple and all that stuff and unlimited void, when I say they're newer bred techniques, it's because someone as knowledgeable as Sukuna, who knew the ins and outs of Yorozu's creation after sitting and interacting with her maybe like once or twice, he has no idea what the Limitless was. And any reference he makes to it or his understanding of it comes from recent events, such as talking with Kenjaku and or literally experiencing it through Itadori Yuji. So it seems like the Limitless is completely new to someone like Sukuna, who's 1,000 years old, and thus has the reference from the Heian era. And then it seems like the Gojo clan happened after Sukuna. A lot of people theorize it's like a Jujutsu auto response, like due to the introduction of Sukuna, the Limitless and the Gojo clan were born as a natural response to it. But with that being the case, it would kind of feel a little bit off kilter if Sukuna's abilities were magically tailored to do it. And it also feels weird that Sukuna wouldn't immediately resort to that. And here's the thing, right? Maybe you can argue he wouldn't immediately resort to it simply because of his pride. Sukuna, I love the guy, but he is a teeny tiny, I'm lying, he's very, very arrogant. But with that arrogance being said, with that malice being put out there, Sukuna's not an idiot. He would not take all this extra damage, take all this extra risk, if his black box technique or the secret trump card he's supposedly been holding could actually deal with Gojo. If they could, he would have done it. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? That's how I see it. And thusly, I don't really see a universe where the black box technique is able to work, bypass neutral limitless, and just execute Gojo immediately. Because it hasn't been established. Once again, we can theory craft for infinity and beyond. On our Buzz... I said Buzz Lightyear. On our Buzz Lightyear type beat. We can go further and forever. But simply within the context of the story we have so far, I don't think it works that way. But if it does, let's say it does, once again, being purely hypothetical, because the goal of this video is to try and find a way to get rid of Gojo. Let's say it does work, for reasons. Like, the reason Sukuna held it back is because he thought he'd be too prideful to have to reveal his technique in this specific way to deal with someone he viewed as an ordinary guy. He's finally pushed to his limits. He finally lost the toy that he was using. And he's like, fine, I'm going to just have this temper tantrum. And once again, unless this technique is a spawn on your opponent and absolutely one-shot them or remove their head technique, Sukuna isn't fast enough to land it. Like... Mahoraga couldn't dodge the flame arrow because Mahoraga was regenerating on the ground and then it got vaporized. Gojo on numerous occasions throughout this fight, while in a literal 3v1, has shown absolute ability to avoid everything Sukuna has to offer. Wait. How? When? What? Like, what do you want? What do you want Sukuna to do? He whips out this super secret... Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Like, Sukuna has this big reveal. We get like a 3-page explanation of how the technique works. How Sukuna developed it mid-fight to counteract the Limitless. He goes black box, gray box, yellow box, white box, open. The trifecta merges. He charges this ultra crazy next level attack. He fires it. And Gojo teleports behind him. It whiffs. And it doesn't hit Gojo. Like, I don't know. Once again, how do you get rid of him? He's too fast. He's too bulky. He has the neutral limitless. So, like, what do you do? What do you do? How do you get rid of it? How do you get rid of it? With things that are established in the narrative or even hypotheticals. If I had to be real with you, if I had to sit down and you just say, once again, like the intro of this video implied, you just, like, you hard, bang. You force the pencil into my hand. You force the pencil and the pen into my hand and say, you need to write it. You need to write a way to get Gojo out of here. I would do the black box. I would do the black box. If I had to get rid of him within the Sukuna fight. I have a way that we can get rid of Gojo in post-Sukuna fight, but I'll talk about that in a second. Specifically in Sukuna fight, because that's where a lot of people are saying, at least based on the comments of my videos and the community posts, a lot of people are saying Gojo needs to perish to Sukuna, or else it wouldn't make sense for anyone later. If you put the pencil in my hand and forced me to write it and draw it, I would literally come up with that nonsense excuse. Like, Sukuna has been holding back this one technique due to his pride, But since his pride has gone away, he shall now explain the technique that will destroy Satoru Gojo. And due to the nature of the showing your hand jujutsu property, the technique shall be more than powerful enough and more than fast enough to tag the strongest sorcerer and destroy him. And then boom, it does that. I mean, that's it. That's how you do it, I guess. If you want to get rid of him specifically in the Sukuna fight. I don't know. Once again, this is the Gojo glaze from me speaking, so the Sukuna fans, feel free to answer this. Would you be satisfied with that? I don't know. I'm not sure if I would. Like, even, like, I mean, I guess it'd be neat, right? Because it'd be like, whoa, the Cave of Curses was holding back all this time. Like, the revelation that Sukuna was holding back on Gojo would be interesting to see. But, like, if he just magically pulls out a technique that manages to one-shot Gojo, I mean, it works, I guess. Feels weird, though. Especially if it's a technique that he's had all this time. Like, maybe if it was a sudden development thing, like, on the fly, he had, like, a Mahito moment where he, like, woke up and was like, whoa, wait a minute. My energy's really cursed like that. And suddenly he pulled it off, then maybe? But I don't know. I feel like that'd be a really anticlimactic way to take out Gojo. This feels like a fight. Then again, it wouldn't be the first time in this fight that Gege just, like, pulled out nonsense for Sukuna. And did not explain it. So, like, it's entirely possible. However, if you had to ask me how I would get rid of Gojo post the Sukuna fight, if I had to get rid of him then, easy. Just say the cursed conglomerate's so, it's gonna sound stupid, so overwhelmingly powerful and is the combination of all the remaining techniques within the Jujutsu world that final piece of the inverted spear of heaven, due to it being a cursed technique infused thing, is infused into the conglomerate. And then the conglomerate's actually able to harm Gojo because it's composed of that much cursed energy, even more cursed energy than what Sukuna would have had. And then you get the excuse, you get to bring in the inverted spear of heaven, that missing piece of it, that last plot line, you get to fuse that in there, you get to utilize the cursed conglomerate in a really cool way, give it the ultimate feat of destroying Gojo through having it reach through the infinity and just atomize them. Don't know how the cast wins after that, but there you go. That's how you get rid of Gojo. It's unfortunate though, right? Like the thing is, I understand why a lot of people are anti-Gojo. even if I love the character, I understand why a bunch of people are anti-Gojo and really want him to lose. But I think, unfortunately, Gege built the character a bit too well and a bit too haxed and simultaneously not haxed in order to make it really hard for him to lose. You know what I'm saying? Like, it works in certain ways that Gojo could cook or get cooked, but he's prepared so well, his kit is so well built, and he's left in such an advantageous position by the end of 235 that there's just no established way that the story is set up so far that I could see Sukuna magically pulling out a dub, or Kenjaku magically pulling out a dub, or anything outside the literal combination of all the cursed energy in Japan pulling out a dub. However, that's what I think. Please let what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure the notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below, each one for as low as $1 month. Eating links, exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also have to become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dagger the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and Red Wolf 4765. I'd like to give a very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Sean, Red Wolf 4765, Midnight Gem Lord, Kevin, and Demex LND. And a very big thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Idemokami, and Calvin Elder. And to give another very big thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. And a very big thank you to our $25 patron, Ignew.